High above the bustling valley of Srinagar is Mount Mahadev, where the oxygen thins and the clouds surrender to the might of the Himalayas. The elders whisper that this is the path Lord Shiva once took to reach Amarnath cave to reveal Amar Katha, the secret of immortality, to goddess Parvati. But on July 28, 2025, around 11 am, Mount Mahadev bore a fiery witness to a different tale. Inside the dense forests of Dachigam that lay opposite to it, a tale of justice, of patience, of retribution, walking quietly in army boots. They and the whole country had waited through 96 long days of grief and fury, since Pahalgam burned, since the families were torn apart by sudden screams and bullets from the shadows. Now, beneath the dense leaves of the forest, the three accused monsters were sleeping in their hideout under a tree. Perhaps dreaming of the hoors they were promised after their jihad, unaware that their death had come closer than they would have ever imagined. April-June 2025. After Pahalgam, investigators left no stone unturned, speaking to over 1,000 people, families of victims, tourists, pony operators, local photographers and villagers for over 3,000 hours, which helped get sketches of the suspects. But that's about it. A couple of weeks later, Indian forces launched Operation Sindoor, taking revenge by killing terrorists deep inside Pakistan, engaging in a drone war and damaging their air bases. But a huge question mark still lay on how and where did the direct perpetrators of Pahalgam vanish. It was only on May 22nd, 2 more weeks later, that the IB got a tip-off about terrorist movements in a specific region. After which, officers, sometimes for days at a stretch, patrol freezing high-altitude trails, hoping to get some clue about suspicious movement. But still nothing. But by June 22nd, their persistence paid off as the NIA arrested 2 locals, Parvez and Bashir Jothar, who reconstructed the exact temporary mountain shelter at the exact space where they hosted the terrorists after the Pahalgam attack. With their testimony, investigators were able to narrow down probable escape routes in the 40 to 50 kilometer forest region between Anantnag's Baisaran and Dachigam in Srinagar. Yet, finding exact locations in the endless forests and steep slopes around Srinagar was another challenge altogether. The 14-day operation. What finally broke the case open was when on July 11th, Forces Special Equipment picked up a distinctive signal from a Chinese satellite phone coming from deep inside Dachigam National Park. Remember, a similar kind of device without connecting to any internet or cellular network was also used for communication during the planning and execution of the Pahalgam attack. This signal kicked off an operation, bringing nearly 180 personnel from the Army's 24th Rashtriya Rifles, the elite 4-para Special Forces, the Jammu and Kashmir Police Special Operations Group and the CRPF together. They combed the rugged slopes and thick forests of Dachigam. And on July 15, they got information from local Bakarwal shepherds who'd noticed 3 strangers moving at odd hours and cooking fires at night, confirming suspicions that this was their prey. However, the forces didn't go for a brute frontal attack. Rather, they planned a method known as step dominance. Because rushing into an attack in a dense forest with low visibility can lead to casualties of the soldiers themselves. So they first tracked them using a bevy of drones that flew over the forests. Many long-range electro-surveillance pods scanned their likely hiding spots beneath dense fir trees. Inside the fusion cell of Army, Police and Intelligence Services at Badami Bagh in Srinagar, night after night, data was collected, the hunters inching closer each time. Terrorists generally remain on the move and take short rest breaks, one of the reasons they manage to evade capture for long periods. But the Army's plan squeezed them, limiting their contact with locals and denying them food supplies. The weather and terrain took their toll as terrorists grew weaker and more tired with each passing day. The forces had even flooded an 8-kilometer tunnel to block them from using it to go across the LOC. On July 26, the Army again intercepted another signal from the same Chinese satellite phone. That's it. That's the final bugle. We have got the area they are hiding in. Next, late night at 11 p.m., the Army moved in teams to seal off the likely exits from the Dachigam forest. The net was the location of terrorists hiding under the trees. At 9:30 a.m., the forces began their final approach up the steep hill, establishing observation posts at high altitude to manage if the situation went haywire. In the low visibility of the forest, commandos crawled silently through the undergrowth and took cover as close as just 10 meters from the terrorist shelter. Even as all commandos kept their fingers on the trigger, one of them peeked in the terrorist hideout. "No movement, sir. Completely still." Which was a rare and deadly error in forest and guerrilla warfare, where at least one person stays awake to keep watch while others rest. But after weeks of being hunted, constantly moving and running low on food, exhaustion had finally overcome the terrorists. Within a minute, the commando whispered into his radio to the command post, and in that low visibility, the soldiers coordinated the order among themselves through hand signals. Within seconds came the first burst of gunfire from the 7-meter post. 2 of the 3 terrorists were killed instantly in their sleeping places, defeated by the element of surprise. But the third terrorist, somehow surviving the initial burst, rolled out of the tent, took cover and tried to fight back in a desperate gun battle that lasted for like half an hour or so. But he was obviously surrounded and outnumbered, so attempted to make a run for it as a last resort, probably hoping to reach thicker forest cover. The soldiers on the top post had anticipated this and quickly neutralized him as well. At 12:14 p.m., drone cameras confirmed what ground forces already knew. All 3 figures were motionless. Inside the terrorist hideout, they felt amazed to find a well-stocked war camp. Carbines, rifles, grenades, satellite radio, Huawei satellite phones, 2 Aadhaar cards of locals, RDX, solar charger and dry rations. At midnight, July 28-29, Indian Army officers took one of their American-made M4s and 2 AK-47s in a special aircraft to Chandigarh's forensic laboratory, where through the night, each weapon was test-fired to produce fresh cartridge cases, whose ballistic analysis with cartridges recovered from the Pahalgam massacre site matched perfectly according to the government. And the 3 terrorists were identified as top Lashkar operatives, the mastermind Hashim Musa, an ex-Pakistani SSG commando as well, and his accomplices Gibran and Hamza Afghani. Though the operation is not over, as biometric scans of facial databases are being used to identify the remaining suspected 3 to 4 members of the group, who may still be hiding somewhere on the ridges of the Zabarwan range. Most importantly, data is being recovered from 3 mobile phones and 2 long-range communication sets that already has reportedly shown photos of 2 Pakistani Nadra cards almost like their Aadhaar. On July 29th, Home Minister Amit Shah thundered in Parliament, "Pakistani chocolates and voter IDs have been found from the terrorists." The coincidence that this encounter happened on the same day as the Operation Sindoor debate in Parliament led to allegations that it was orchestrated by the government. But there is no proof of it, and if not the government's, we can at least take the army's word for the encounter. Though the bigger question is that if mastermind Hashim Musa and his accomplice Gibran infiltrated India way back in September 2023, led the attack on Zedmore Tunnel October 2024, killing 7 workers including a doctor, it is clear that stopping infiltration along a long border inside a thick forest is obviously difficult. It seems that buoyed by the progress in Jammu and Kashmir, the government momentarily took its eye off the ball and has now learned a harsh lesson that Pakistan will never concede defeat on Kashmir. Bizbo's limerick. The perpetrators of Pahalgam were on the run. The dense forests of Dachigam could save them none. For the plan they hatched were to hell dispatched in a hail of bullets and a fiery gun. You will also find these sources listed in our video description section.